Hello, my name is Connie Fogal. I am the leader of the Canadian Action Party. We are one of these small parties in Canada that the mainstream media and the major political parties do not want you to hear from because they do not want you to know what they are really doing. Right now, they are integrating Canada, the United States, and Mexico into an arrangement that might be called the North American Union or have some other name, but it will be, and it is being already, an unaccountable, unelected group of people who are running the show. The way they are doing this, the justification for their doing this, the legitimacy they claim they have, is a Security and Prosperity Partnership Agreement, which was entered in 2005 under a Liberal regime and continued under the Conservative regime. Remember, they're Tweedledee and Tweedledum. And under that agreement, everything is to be harmonized amongst the three countries of Canada, the United States, and Mexico. And they've been focusing mostly and more quickly between Canada and the United States. But the most important thing that they've been doing to this process is merging the bureaucracies of the three countries. And you have to understand, this is a process of incrementalization. They do it bit by bit so that you, the public, all of us, the citizens, will be fooled, will be tricked. We won't realize what's going on. They do it bit by bit. And that's a deliberate strategy. They understand the psychology of that. All of a sudden, we'll have a new entity and we'll say, where did this come from? So we, the smaller parties, few of us, are telling you about this. They have 100 working groups, at least 100 working groups have been functioning in all the areas of significant running of a country, from your defense, through your immigration, through your finance, through energy, everything. And these groups have been meeting, and they're groups, people, human beings, who are representatives from our government. They're major positions, they're the bureaucracy, meeting with the bureaucrats from industry, meeting regularly, and have sometimes, of course, senior officials from government, and sometimes even elected people would be there. And certainly those working groups report to elected people. They report to the Prime Minister and they report to cabinet ministers. That's a significant issue, a very significant issue. Secondly, we're all fighting in Afghanistan as a result of this integration. Canada has abandoned its sovereign independence to make our own decisions about what kind of defense we're going to do for Canada, where we're going to put our troops. We've abandoned the policy of being peacemakers. We've got people, we've got our military, our young men and women fighting in Afghanistan in an illegal war, justified on the grounds of terrorism, which in itself flows from an incident that has very, very faulty explanation of what that was all about. Canadian Action Party calls for a proper investigation because the official version is just so flawed. And here we have ourselves participating in an invasion of a sovereign country, and our young people are dying because they think they're going there to protect freedom, when it's not that at all. What it's about is oil. What it's about is control and power in a region to put more and more power into the hands of fewer and fewer people. It's pretty easy to be clear about that. Another really important aspect of this integration is that something that's happening right now. There's an intention to use the Bank of Canada to bail out the banks in the United States who are right now at this particular time in a terrible crunch because of their faulty practices flowing from deregulation and their gambling in the pie in the sky area, unregulated and playing with money. It's important to understand that the Bank of Canada is a jewel for Canadians, and our governments since the 70s have refused to use it for the benefit of the citizens to put operations into the country to finance without interest or very low interest. They've refused to do that in any meaningful way since the 70s. But they're quite prepared now to use our Bank of Canada to function like one of the banks that are part of the major elite financial interests of the world, to use the resources of this nation, Canada, to support and sustain and bail out bad practices that are crushing the economies probably of the world in terms of impact right now. That's a significant something, a very significant something. Another example of the integration that's in process is the sell-off of our assets. They're selling buildings that are public buildings. They're selling schools. They're selling hospitals. They're selling our highways. And they're even selling our rivers. Just absurd. The principle and the intention of the Canadian Council of Chief Executives and the Council on Foreign Relations from the US intend that a ruling elite will have control of the assets of North America right now, and everything is to be privatized, put in their hands, and the citizens exist only to serve that master. That's not the concept of what Canada was intended to be. That's not what the citizens want, and it's not what they would acknowledge or accept if they really knew what was going on. Another something that's really in process, again, that's people are being fooled about, is this major change in the transportation corridors of North America. Right now, and for a number of months now, a number of the provinces are cooperating with the federal government and the community of this integrated North America to do a north-south flow of transportation corridors. And there are massive transportation corridors in process on the West Coast, on the East Coast, and especially through the central part of North America. That's important, this issue of transportation corridors, because Canada geographically has had a hard time, struggled throughout its entire history to have an east-west flow of transportation in order to keep the country together. We've had to fight against the natural geography. Using the natural flow of the geography into a north-south fits nicely into the plan of an integrated North America. And when you think of this NAFTA superhighway that's in process, parts of it already being built in Texas with major resistance happening from the people down in the United States, which is good. It's a position of hope for all of us. But this corridor starting in Mexico, going right through the heart of the United States, coming up into Winnipeg, and then expanding east and west across Canada is in process. Highways are being restructured, bridges are being built. What's important about that is this will sidestep the longshore unions that are the first front of loading facilities when ships come in. That's all going to change, and there's going to be major displacement of workers in the United States because the ships are going to land with cheap goods from countries that use slave labor to create cheap goods, landing in the Mexican port, coming up then through the United States, and the first point of entry of recognized customs examination is not going to be at the border between the water and the land. It's going to be right in the center of the United States as a first point stop off. There's a big issue for the people in the United States because of the trucking industry and the kinds of trucks and the controls and the deregulation of trucks that are coming up through Mexico. It's not to blame the individual humans that are involved, it's to blame the system that's in place and created.